community in ways other than just at this meeting. Thank you. We have a quorum, so we are about to begin. Let me just first say that there are rules that go beyond this building, and they're made by officials other than people at this dais or in this building. One of those officials is a fire marshal. You all are probably familiar with those rules and regulations, and I don't know them chapter and verse, but it does limit our ability to let folks in this room. And if there should become some concern about the number of people in here, our staff will try to direct folks to the overflow room. We want to stay in compliance with the law because that is the law, but two, the law is there for a reason. People could get hurt if this room gets beyond capacity. So the first thing I would say to you all is please pay attention to the folks that are working on your behalf. They're security personnel. They're there to ensure your safety. Another thing that I have to point out, although I don't know the fire marshal's rules, chapter and code, I do know that they require that we post exit signs, and you see them above your head to the left and the right. If there's an emergency, I'm told that there are signs that will lead you out of the building safely. Do not take an elevator. The fire marshal rules prohibit that, and I believe our staff will shut them down. There are some other rules I want to review with you to ensure that they go to issues respecting not your safety, but your right to be heard. And these rules are here to protect the numerous speakers that we have speaking today. And the board enacted them, again, to preserve the rights of those who want to make sure that they are heard. So I'm going to go through some of them, just so that you're not caught off guard if one of our personnel have to remind you of what the rules are for the conduct of this meeting. There are certain behaviors that are prohibited under our rules. It's not going to shock you. It's probably some of the rules that many of you have in your classrooms respecting students. No person, either singularly or in concert with others, shall obstruct or disrupt the teaching, research, administration, disciplinary procedures, or other school district activities, including Board of Education meetings. No person will willfully cause physical injury to any other person, nor threaten to do the same. And no person shall physically restrain or detain any other person. No person will willfully damage or destroy property or district property or property under its power or control. Again, I'm not reading all of them to you, I'm just reading some of the highlights. Another one is no person shall, this is an important one, no person shall refuse to leave any building, including this building or facility, after being directed to do so by a principal or by an authorized administrative officer or his or her designee. And just two more I'll read. No person shall be insubordinate or use abusive language or refuse to obey the reasonable direction of an administrative officer, teacher, staff member, or school educational facility leader. And then one more. No person shall willfully incite others to commit any of the acts described above with the intent to encourage others to do the same. All right, so those are the rules. I'm sure that you all will respect those rules because it's important that we have a democracy where people can be heard. Now, in terms of your opportunity to be heard, you have 2 minutes to speak. And the reason why it is 2 minutes instead of the normal 3 minutes is because we have 37 speakers, is that right? And I'm going through this rule with you, that's right. That is a great demonstration of the power of democracy. However, if you are number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 10, 11, 12, and you're going on and you're not paying attention to that bell, you are hurting democracy. We have 2 minutes, not because we love rules, but because we want to make sure that we hear everyone. And one other thing I want to add. I just keep it real here. One of the things I hate the most about this kind of setting is when I have to engage in arguments with people out in the audience about respecting other people's rights. I don't want to do that. I shouldn't have to do that, and I don't think I'll have to. So let's please respect the rules. The buzzer will sound. I'll give you the time you need to wrap up. If you have an extra lengthy presentation, feel free to make copies of it or give 1 copy to our clerk, and we'll make sure that all the board members have it. All right? So having said that, all right, that's all right. Having said that, we always begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and an act of reverence. Is there I'd like to pick a young person out there to lead us in the pledge. Is there a young person out there with the mom? Or how about that young person right? All right, yeah, come on up. Let's give this young man a round of applause. You can go right over to that microphone. If you could just tell us your name, that would be great, and we'll all follow you.
What's your name?
Welcome to Scream and Eat.
Okay.
Oh, that's all right.
Off topic. Right now, you need to say your name. What's your name? My name.
Oh, he's doing school now?
Elijah.
Right.
Elijah. Oh, nice to meet
You're
you.
going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Are you ready?
A pledge of allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job. Wait. There was a young man that sort of came up behind him. Do you want to do it too?
You want to do it too?
You want to do it too? Oh, okay, come on, let's do it. We can do it one more time. This is worth it.
Okay. Congratulations to the flag of the United States of America. The republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and King justice for all.
Wow. Those are some great twins. That is awesome. Thank you, guys. Let's give them another round of applause. Great job, guys. I think that was the first time we've had twins do the Pledge of Allegiance. Great job, guys. Where do they go to school?
Bryson is at school 45 and a 12.
Okay.
And autism classroom. Elijah's at school 29.
All right. Representing the district, nice job. We also begin our meetings with an act of reverence, usually a moment of silence. As I indicated, many of my colleagues and I had the unfortunate opportunity to go to Zidane Wright's wake. They gave out these cards, and many of you probably have heard this phrase before, but it's worth repeating. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I would hope and pray that we not only apply this in our understanding and support of Mr. Wright's family, but that we also carry these words in our hearts and our minds as we go forward with this very difficult work. Just a moment of silence, please, for Mr. Wright and his family. Thank you. First order of business is we have to approve minutes. Many folks have been around this district know that we have meetings, and the meeting minutes have to be approved by the full board. So I need a motion to approve October 17th and business meeting of October the 17th and the special meeting minutes of October the 29th, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Hallmark. Is there a second? I need a second. Second by Commissioner Powell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? All right, the ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is the speakers list. I've already described for you the rules. Let me just repeat, it is 2 minutes. It is important that you stick to that 2 minutes because there's probably 36 people behind you who want the equal opportunity to speak. I understand this is a democracy and there may be things that you will applaud and want to applaud. We can't stop you from doing that, but please understand the longer the applause goes on, the more delay that occurs in hearing the opinions of others. So I would encourage you to respect that space of time as well. So let's, yes?
I'm sorry, you need to amend the...
Oh, thank you very much for reminding me. Just a little background. Normally, as you all know, we don't have this many speakers, and when confronted with this challenge of having this many speakers, we thought, well, maybe we ought to do is split the speakers up. And we voted, and we had to vote because our bylaws require that if you change any way in which you do the meetings, you have to have a vote regarding that. And we voted on that at a public meeting a couple days ago. But then when we finished taking the calls from the people who had called in, we realized, well, it's about 37 speakers, and we should just go through and hear them all rather than breaking them up. Because what was going to happen is some people were going to be heard at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to break it up and then do the business side of the meeting and then hear the folks later on. And that would have resulted in some people, particularly teachers, having to go home later because we always hear from parents and community members first. So they would be at the top of the list. They would be heard the first round. But 37, we figured, I'm figuring maybe we can manage it all and hear everybody out at all at one time. So our parents, our community leaders, and our teachers and our staff members can get back home and do what they have to do with their families and prepare for tomorrow. So I need a motion, I am told. Carl, do I have to have any special legalized language? You did send something, but I don't have it.
Mr. President?
Yes.
In the interim, I'll move to suspend the bylaws and modify the agenda.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, so we're good. All right, we're all right, Carl?
Close enough.
All right. The other thing I want to say is please accept my apologies for names that I don't pronounce correctly. I would encourage you when you take to the mic that you tell the community and the recorder what your correct name is. I would also ask that I'm going to call a number of names in succession, and where I would ask that you stand is to the left of the speaker that's at the mic. So it's a big room, and I don't want to just call people out, and it takes them 3 minutes to get to the mic. So if you hear your name, stand to the left of the speaker. Thank you very much. Isabella Austin. Isabella Austin. She will be followed by Kenyatta Jones and Ariana Colon. Isabella Austin, Kenyatta Jones, and Ariana Colon. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi.
You can move the mic closer to your mouth. That's great. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabella Austin. I am a senior at Interim Health Academy located on Hart Street. And for the first time since I've been in high school, I don't feel like I have to fear for my life every day when I go to school. I would love to tell you how I got here. Almost every day I was terrified that today would be the day I would walk into the bathroom and get jumped for being different. At Edison, I was just another number. I had good grades and I seemed okay, but I wasn't. I was in the middle of a war. It started freshman year and everything went downhill from there. I endured being called names, being cursed at, having food thrown at me, and even being told I would be better off dead. Despite best efforts from my social worker, I cracked. And after my third suicide attempt, I realized I could never go back to the place that tormented me for so long. Therefore, I didn't. And everything changed for me once I started Interim Health Academy. The other kids really understood me, and it was so clear that the staff truly cared about each student individually. They were so nice to me. It was okay to have a bad day, and it was okay to cry, but they always made sure that you never gave up your fight. It was the first time that I felt like I didn't need to hide who I am out of fear of being bullied. This school is like a family to me. When one person falls, we all make sure to help that person get back on their feet. I love school again, and I want to go every day. It means so much to me to know that I matter. I am human too. I graduate this year, and my dream is that this program continues to reach the minds of hearts of children being bullied and broken on a daily basis. Kids in the school system matter, and we need to show them that we care. Interim Health Academy is a successful program. Getting rid of teachers that care and programs that work for kids is wrong. Please be wise and spend money on kids like me and on programs that work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Beautiful, that's beautiful. Kenyatta Jones will be followed by Ariana Colon and then Jessica Fleming.
Good evening, Superintendent Day, President White, and Commissioners. My name is Keontae Jones, and I am an 8th grader at Dr. Charles T. Lunsford School 19. I am Lunsford strong, and so are my teachers. I believe that the city school district shouldn't get rid of some of the teachers that we have because it can really affect the students in middle school and in any grade. This can affect our learning and how we see things in many ways if you lay off teachers that has been here since the beginning of the school year. It will result in a domino effect in our classes. First, the behavior will get worse, and then the suspension rates will get even higher. Kids will start disrespecting the new teachers that you bring in because they're so used to the teachers they love. If someone new comes in and takes over, it will lead to complete chaos in our classrooms and for the teacher environment. Once the climate and culture starts to struggle, everyone will suffer and feel pain in many ways. We students deserve more from every one of you and to have stability in our lives at school. We deserve to have people who really care about us and stay. For example, I know you look at numbers, but there are real teachers behind each one of those numbers. Teachers who care about us, love us, and provide for us with stability. For example, I'd like to put one face to your numbers. Mr. Terrell Cunningham, my social studies teacher at Dr. Charles T. Lunsford School 19. Mr. Cunningham is a father figure to me and multiple students. He brings happiness and discipline to our lives as a young African male who started off just like us, students in the city school district. He can relate to us in many ways. He started off with nothing and ended up graduating from Marshall High School, going to college and coming back to the very community that he grew up in. He respects his students, his peers, and has become a role model for me and my friends as an independent black male who each day teaches all of us to respect ourselves and others. He also has been a person who has taught us girls to demand respect from others. We need our teachers. We need teachers like Mr. Cunningham who teaches us that we need to speak up for ourselves and the people we care about, like I'm doing tonight. We deserve this. People, help us save our teachers.
Ariana Colon will be followed by Jessica Fleming. And then Kelly Lalande, and then Bridget Strum.
So you've already met my twins, Elijah and Bryson. Bryson goes to school 45, where he's in a 12-3-1 class. In Bryson's class, there's a speech and language pathologist who brings her therapy dog, Layla, who sits with the kids and allows them to be able to sit still and read and do some of the things they wouldn't be able to do with that support. When Bryson first started at School 45, because of funding cuts, school now ends an hour earlier than we were expecting. Teachers, paraprofessionals, even the assistant principal helped us with childcare, even keeping him in the office while we were working out what we were going to do with after school. They helped us with OPWDD. Elijah's teacher, who's with him right now, has text message conversations with me almost daily, not just about school progress, but helping us at home. All of the kids in the Rochester City School District are vulnerable, not just the special education students. The schools provide stability that a lot of these kids do not have at home, or at least not the same amount of stability. If they're clinicians, they're paraprofessionals, if their teachers are caught in the middle of the year, we are taking away some of that stability that's necessary for these kids to thrive. Both of my children are a little on the anxious side. Elijah in particular really relies on relationship building in order to be successful. His speech and language pathologist, who has helped him not just with his speech, but also his emotional regulation, behavior management, self-confidence, is a first-year speech language pathologist at in the Rochester City School District. If you cut her, it's not just a clinician that we can replace with another clinician because the relationship is so important. I brought them with me because I want them to be able to speak too about how they feel about their programs and their teachers. So Bryson, what do you like about School 45?
I like about reading.
You like reading?
Yep.
And who helps you read?
I don't know.
Teachers, the therapy dog, or speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists. These clinicians have come to appointments with us and helped us advocate. Elijah, what do you like about school?
A microphone.
We also like microphones. Elijah really likes things like art and music. His art teacher is a first-year teacher at School 29. I'm concerned not just about the teachers and clinicians, but also all the like the special teachers and the paraprofessionals that they have relationships with. Really, none of the faculty are expendable in the Rochester City School District.
Thank you.
If you take a moment, Elijah has been practicing reading. Would you all mind reading Elijah? Because he's really worked hard on this.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello.
Good. Let's go read them.
A president.
Come great. Show them what you've been working on. Look. Wait, look. Yes, look. What do you say?
Thank you.
How are you? What do you say?
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you say this? Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
She's going to see right now, buddy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You did a great job, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
President White, can you check your phone?
What's that? She didn't respond when I called out her name, so I'll check again.
This is what two speech teachers look like being cut. He would not have these skills without Danielle Sire at School 29. So understand these skills came this year from a first-year speech teacher.
Before we continue on with our list, we had Isabella Kenyatta, I hope I pronounced that right, Bryson and Elijah. These are our students, and just listening to their parents and to the students in particular, you heard their stories, very remarkable, not only about the staff, but about themselves. So if we could, let's give these students again, all four of them, a round of applause. Very, very proud of them. Okay, I had called out the name Ariana Colon. Is she here? No? All right. Kelly Lalonde. I probably didn't pronounce it.
okay, Lalonde.
Lalonde. And then she'll be followed by Bridget Strupp.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak. And my name is Kelly, and I'm a teacher and a community member. I also know I have a 2-minute timeline, but I'm here after 7 weeks still with pneumonia. So, you know, God forbid a teacher takes some sick time if Channel 13 is out there paying attention today. So, if I need to breathe, I'm sorry. And I'm here because I'm here to change the things I no longer can accept. I currently work at School 58 as a secondary ESL teacher. I worked at Charlotte, I worked at East, and I worked at a school that's since closed, an elementary school. In 11 years, I've been laid off 3 times. I've been rehired 3 times as well. For 8 of those years, I've never been paid the correct salary, even though I change it every September and call them. So not only am I a teacher, but I'm also somehow payroll every year. I've taught murderers. I've had 5 students die. And I've watched our country elect a leader who calls my students terrorists and drug dealers. I've taught some of the board's children. And like I said, I'm currently here, even though I have pneumonia. I don't tell you this to diminish all the great stuff that our schools do. I love my job and I love my kids. But I tell you this because until we are brutally honest about the things that challenge us every day and are in our communities, then nothing will ever change. And no amount of positive PR slapped on the ills of our communities and schools, and no feel-good story can erase structural racism, de facto segregation, and poverty.
Let's applaud that.
The plain truth is, we are all failing our children, and there absolutely must be a reckoning, but this is not how we do it. I need us to stop blaming each other and start working together, and I am almost done, I promise. We need to do it together. And the ugly truth is that politics are behind these cuts. Commissioners, sometimes the only way out is through, and I'm asking you to vote this down, because we need you to.
Jenny Figueroa and Crystal Dix. If you could stand to her left. Ms. Strupp.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Strube, and I am a proud parent. It's the mic, please.
Right here?
We good? Okay. Good evening. My name is Bridget Strube, and I'm a proud parent of a kindergartner and a 2nd grader at School 15. Research from Dr. Zeller at Harvard Graduate School of Education shows that close relationships with meaningful adults are an important part of creating high-quality learning environments and positive outcomes for children. Trusted relationships between adults and students have been linked with higher levels of positive social behavior and more complex cognitive work. When students view their relationships with their teachers as reliable and trustworthy, they have been shown to be more engaged in classroom activities, have better attitudes about school, and demonstrate better academic performance. Thus, teacher-student relationships cannot be overlooked as an essential part of our children's school and academic success. These relationships take time to develop, and for some, this is the time of year when efforts to gain trust are just beginning to be rewarded. To sever these relationships in the middle of the year would be as absurd as proposing to remove pencils and books from our children's classrooms. To approach this decision as purely clinical and focus on the numbers is to fall far short of our responsibility to tend to these children as whole human beings. In my line of work as a birth doula, the foundation of every decision I make is the question, how will they remember this? I challenge each and every one of you to consider this. How will our children remember this year if their trusted adults are suddenly removed from their lives? If this isn't the first and foremost consideration in this decision, then we are missing the mark. I don't claim to be a budget expert and know this is a really difficult decision, but cutting building level staff during the middle of the year is faulty, disruptive on so many levels, and short-sighted. The $9.7 million that those cuts will supposedly save is just a small portion of the overall shortfall anyway. I implore you to carry that $9.7 million deficit until at least June and preserve these important adult-child relationships within our schools. We owe it to our children and to those whom they've put their trust in to do so. Thank you.
Jenny Figueroa, going to be followed by Crystal Dix. Crystal Dix, is this mic working? Yeah. And Mary Callahan.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Dix, and I am a parent of a kindergartner at school number 23. I am also the parent of 2 recent alum from the School of the Arts who are now in college at Savannah State University. The budget deficit was not caused by the students at 23 school, at 39 school, at Monroe, or at the School of the Arts. Students at Wilson and at number 9 and at Vanguard did not misappropriate funds to add director, PhD, EDD to their names. They are not the blame for the adults' decisions in the Rochester City School District. Contrary to what you may believe, the students are the greatest casualty of this discussion. They have been deduced to a budget line item so that the commissioners and executives don't have to lose their paychecks. Whereas those on the front lines, that's the teachers and the paras and the caregivers and the nurturers, the stand in the gaps moms and dads and the lunch ladies and the janitors, they're the ones that are going to suffer the consequence for the board and for the school district's actions. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes an entire community to educate our children. I ask that you fight for what is most important in all of this, and it's not the budget. What's most important are our students. What's most important are our children. What's most important is our community. Thank you.
Mary Callahan, to be followed by Howard Eagle and Evelyn Evans.
It's hard to follow. Hello. I am the parent of a 2nd grader who attends School 58, as well as a teacher in Greece and a chair on the Citizen Action Education Committee. I realize that you are in a financial crisis, but you are about to drop a bomb on our kids. How can anyone possibly think that cutting 168 teachers and 38 paras in the middle of the year is the best solution to this problem? This should not even be on the table. I honestly can't believe that we have to come here to say that kids losing teachers they have been developing relationships with in the middle of the year is devastating. That classes being combined, teachers being moved around to fill in the gaps is devastating. Do not try to say that the impact of this loss will not be felt. This is going to directly disrupt their learning. Go back, try again. This is unacceptable. I oppose this 5% cut across the board, but at least look to the inefficiency and often incompetence that is central office. Trim that fat, whip that bureaucracy into shape. Put pressure on our legislators in Cuomo to give us the $86 million we are owed in foundation aid. Do not rush these mid-year budget cuts. Pause. Think about the repercussions of these actions on our kids. We should not have to come out here to tell you this. We should all be spending our time on real and productive solutions that will actually benefit them. Your #1 job is to protect the education of our kids. Protect them. Protect their classrooms. And lastly, because I am particularly concerned that funding for restorative practices could be the first to go, a program that has been successful and has had many gains, can everyone in this room please text ROCK SCHOOLS to 83224. And if you can't remember that, go to the Citizen Action Facebook page. It will be there. If we organize, we can have people power and make a change. Demand Albany fund us as well.
Howard Eagle will be followed by Evelyn Evans and Christine Noble. Howard Eagle will be followed by Evelyn Evans and Christine Noble. Will Ms. Evans and Ms. Noble stand to the left of Mr. Eagle?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My perspective is going to be a little different. I was hoping that I would speak after Dr. Urbanski, because usually when this kind of fiasco happens, Dr. Urbanski speaks as long as he wants to. So when he comes to the mic, if he gets more than 2 minutes, I'm going to come back. Now, listen, it's good to see you here, but I got to tell you, some of us have been wondering, where have you been? Yes. Where have you been? You acting like the crisis is just now starting. Where were you about a year ago when Dr. Aquino came to town, the Commissioner of Education came to town, the Chancellor of the New York State Board of Regents came to town, and they said they told us something that we've known for a long time, that the district is in crisis, and it needs a total reset, according to their language. Where were you then? This is not a new crisis. Listen, when you have a student who stands here and says, this year, as a senior, is the first time that I can go to school and not fear for my life. That's what she said. That's powerful. That means we've been in crisis at least 12 years. But some of us know it's been decades. To the young student who spoke about Mr. Cunningham, some of us are concerned about the Mr. Cunninghams. I don't know Mr. Cunningham, but chances are he was one of the last hired, and likely he will be one of the first fired. Teachers of color will go first. In general, they will. Now, you say as educators, we value evidence-based research. That's what we say. Well, the research says that a child who has one elementary teacher who is a black child or a child of color in general is more likely to graduate, is more likely to go on to college. That's conclusive research. That's not me talking. It's the evidence-based research that we say we value as educators. So how come are we talking save harmless for educators of color? We got a major initiative in this district to recruit more race and class conscious educators of color. And then if you're sending them back out the door at the same time, what are we doing? When will we ever have parity? When will we ever have equity? Are we serious about institutional and structural racism? I hope we are, but I kind of doubt it.
Thank you. Evelyn Evans, Christine Noble, and Andrea Berardi.
I apologize. I was instructed to come stand up here as I was number 7, and unfortunately there was a applause at the time in which my name was called. My name is Janai Figueroa, and I am a parent here in the Rochester City School District. Good evening.
Good evening.
Distinguished board. I'm here as a parent, but I want to let you know that I stand here as a graduate of the original Franklin High School. I stand here as a community leader. I stand here as a member of the Rock Restorative team here within this district. But tonight, I stand here firmly planted as a parent of a child who currently has a 504 plan because she reads at a first grade level, however, can do math in her brain to 3 digits with no problem. I stand here because she has a first-year special ed teacher in her classroom. She is a 3rd grader. She has struggled with her reading since kindergarten. She can very clearly tell you that she struggles with her fluency and her ability to read her words. Removing her special ed teacher from her classroom during the middle of the year will be extremely detrimental to her because she is in an ICOT classroom. And what you may or may not know, in our district, in elementary buildings, ICOT classrooms typically can be boy-heavy and therefore have significant behavior challenges. Her classroom has worked tirelessly to be able to figure out how to manage those behaviors. This is not the first rodeo with that. This is the 3rd year, as she's been at 58 since kindergarten. My daughter, at this point, has plateaued. She also is a participant in the Horizons program that also received funding being cut. She has participated in that since she was in kindergarten as well. I urge you as leaders to reconsider the impact that this has, because I want to take you back in time for a moment. I want to take you to a time where I was 14 years old and my first job was to work at the Rochester Public Library, the Lincoln Library to be exact. It's on the corner of Joseph Avenue and Avenue D. It still currently stands. I was at that job on my first week, and in that first week I met a young lady in the children's library, 7 years old, and asked me to read a picture book to her because she could not read. I am now 36 years old, and I am living that. I need you to reconsider your choices, as clearly, Mr. Dade, that this is not something that you created, but you inherited. I understand that deeply, but I need you to know that we have a responsibility as educators, and I take my responsibility as an educator very seriously, that we have a responsibility to close this educational gap, not continue it. Thank you very much.
Evelyn Evans, Christine Noble, and Andrea Barati. If you folks could just state your name, because I want to make sure I'm keeping up with my list here when you take the mic.
Hello, my name is Christine Noble. I'm a council member at large for Metro Justice, but I'm not only here in that capacity, but also as a former Rochester City School student. I started in Rochester City Schools in the 2nd grade at number 50 school, and that year was 1978. Now, some of you are maybe too young to remember that year, but that was the year of the last time the Rochester City School teachers went on strike. And I'm not in any position to tell the teachers what to do, but I will suggest that perhaps we should think about the fact that strikes have been very popular with the teachers across the country these last few years and very effective, so something to ponder. But I digress. The real reason I'm here is not because of that. The real reason I'm here is not even because of the 50 million, I think it is, the shortfall. That's disgusting, but that's not why I'm upset. And I'm not here to speak about how it's egregious that the cuts are all coming from school level positions almost, and not from this building, from people making far more than any of those teachers. I think the parents and the teachers here could speak to that much better than I could. I am here to speak about something that we almost never talk about, and we need to talk about, and that is the horrible way we go about funding our education in this country, and that Rochester is just one of many cities to suffer from. No child's education should depend on their zip code. The Rochester City School District is one of the poorest, if not the poorest, in the country. Our students face just horrible outcomes from poverty, from parents that have to work 2, 3, even 4 jobs and can't put the time in that their suburban counterparts, parents, can. So no child should have to deal with that. And we shouldn't have to beg Albany every year for scraps that they're greedy with and miserly and just terrible. So really, everyone here, not just the board, not just the superintendent, but all of us need to actually get out there, be heard, get involved with Citizen Action, Metro Justice, Vocal New York, whoever, and organize and put an end to this monstrosity. Because otherwise, we're just going to be back here next year, the year after, and the year after that. Thank you.
Andrea Barati, followed by John Pavone and Adam Urbanski.
Hi, my name is Andrea Berardi, and I've been a health teacher in the district for 20 years. I currently teach at the Young Mothers Interim Health Academy located at Hart Street. Since money is a major issue, I'd like to know why the district spent over $250,000 on the Health Smart curriculum, a highly effective skills-based elementary health program that has not been implemented with fidelity in every school as required by the New York State Commissioner regulations. Health must be learned early with a proven sequential program so that when students get to high school, they have the ability to make better decisions that affect their lives. Health should have a place on the elementary report card. We talk about the school to prison pipeline. I think we need to talk about the school to disease and death pipeline. Our most recent Rochester City School District Youth Risk Behavior Survey indicates that 1/3 of our students felt so sad, hopeless, or had serious mental health challenges, making it impossible for them to concentrate at school. 10% attempted suicide. 10% were involved in dating violence. 20% of our kids were in a physical fight at school. 85% of our young people experienced one or more ACEs trauma. This is the adverse childhood experiences, which includes incidents such as witnessing a shooting or stabbing, forcible sexual contact, having a family member in jail or prison, or living with a mentally ill parent. These numbers reinforce the need for comprehensive health education and the resources that promote
Hold on one second.
school environment.
We'll hold the clock, but I want to make sure we hear you because there's some feedback going on.
Am I too close?
No, it's not you.
All right.
Go ahead, try again.
All right.
Hey.
So the numbers reinforce the need for comprehensive health education and the resources that promote a caring school environment, including a program such as Young Mothers Interim Health. Consistency is important in maintaining student learning and healthy connections. How can eliminating so many people with direct student contact be good for our students' social emotional health? Breaking up school communities hurts all of us, and mid-year is even worse. It is not the teachers' or students' fault that the administration at CO underestimated the budget. Find another way to solve this problem, please.
Thank you. John Pavone will be followed by Adam Urbanski and Sandra Kern.
Thank you. Members of the board, Superintendent Dade. When Superintendent Dade came to the Rochester City School District, we never blamed him for the problem that was already here when he got here. In fact, we were very optimistic when he proclaimed that cuts will be made away from the classroom. The fact is that cuts were made right in the classroom themselves. Nearly 55% of the cuts are teacher cuts, where central office cuts represent only 4%. Really, 4%? For high-paying personnel who have nothing to do with the classrooms. The public has no idea what negative effect these teacher cuts will have and the damage these cuts will cause. The teacher cuts will hurt our ability to recruit new and future teachers, and they will demoralize and depress staff morale. We know that when we cut staff, increase class size, we are indeed interfering with the quality of education that these very competent teachers who are here tonight, sitting behind me, provide to our students each and every day. These teacher cuts represent what is wrong with the values which are held by this administration. The frontline personnel, the teacher, who have the most direct contact with our students, are the most important employees in our school system. They work the hardest, they are rewarded the least, and they're the first to go. Something is wrong with this picture. Superintendent Dade should go back and fix it. When it's all said and done, there will be more kids in our classroom and fewer adults in every school. Teachers will be stretched thin, which translates to students not getting the help they need to succeed and excel. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Urbanski will be followed by Sandra Kern and Lisa Silverstein. Mr. Urbanski, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Kern.
Well, Mr. Urbanski is next. That's okay. It doesn't, that's fine. That's fine.
Good afternoon. In the list, it says that I'm part of the staff and that I'm here for budget cuts, but I'm actually a parent, and I'm here for an issue of transportation. I don't want to take away from everybody who has speak and will speak on what they're doing on their budget cuts. When I scheduled this, trust me, I didn't know this was going to happen. This is the second time that I come here with this request. I live in the city. My daughter lives with me. The school assigned to her closed a couple of years ago because it was the second worst in the state. Since then, it has reopened as a charter. But as her parent, as her mom, I feel like I need to provide the best possible options for her. And thankfully, I am blessed enough to have the opportunity to pay for her school. She goes to Nazareth. But the only person that can help me with after school care is my grandmother who lives in Greece. Now, there is a bus already that goes from Nazareth to Greece, for Greece citizens, but she can't get on it because she lives in the city. Now, I have even looked at the option of paying for private transportation, but it's not even allowed in the city. She needs to go through a contractor bus. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't do it. So all I'm asking is for the board to approve to reimburse Greece for her transportation. I understand that there are critical budget issues, but paying for her transportation is still financially and fiscally responsible, because even though she goes to a private school, the board still receives funding for her, and she's not getting any service from the board. I have looked into this. Nazareth, I'm Puerto Rican, so it's very important to me that my child grows up with people who are similar to her or different, just like she is. And I love that Nazareth has that diversity in the school. She is just 2 blocks away from the school that would have been assigned to her. So I'm keeping her in her community. I'm trying to do what's best. Most families would have moved to a different suburb. I'm deciding to stay where I'm at, and I'm just trying. I need your help. Right now I'm paying for after extended care, which is about $400 a month, just because she needs to wait for me to get out of work to go pick her up. She's just 5. She spends like 10 hours in that building, which is way more than we expect adults to work a day. It's just 8 hours. So anything that you could do to help, and again, I don't want to take away from you, but anything would be okay. Thank you.
Good evening.
Mr. Urbanski, I just want to say that people heard a parent who was very desperate for help, and I don't want you all to think we're not responsive to that. That's why we lean over, that's why we have cell phones. There's a lot of communication that goes on, and the superintendent told me he can't guarantee that he can help her, but someone has her name because he took it down, and someone will be contacting her. I just don't want folks to think that we just heard a parent in distress and weren't paying any attention. So go ahead, Mr. Urbanski.
Thank you. I'm still Adam Urbanski, and I'm still president of the Rochester Teachers Association. And I still want the same thing that you, members of the board, want, and you, Superintendent Dade, want. That is the best opportunity for a great education for all of our students. We just happen to disagree on how to get there from here. What is being proposed now, the plan that is being proposed now, in my view, is a cure that's worse than the disease. You are proposing that we disrupt the learning for our students in the middle of their school year, disrupt relationships between them and their teachers, disrupt relationships among the students themselves. You're proposing that we start fixing a problem that we haven't framed yet. We don't know how the district got into the mess that they're in. We only know that neither students nor their teachers or paraprofessionals created that mess. That's the only thing we know. And yet they're the ones who are being asked to pay for it. We don't know whether or not we can get additional funding from the state because the legislature doesn't reconvene until about a month from now. But we could get spin-up money. We have in the past, and that would make unnecessary the brutal layoffs and brutal reduction in services and increases in class size that the current proposed solution says. We don't know yet whether or not it's impossible to make cuts further away from the classroom. All we know is that 155 teachers are being cut and only one position from the top echelons of the bureaucracy in this building. So my suggestion is this: don't make the cuts in the middle of the year. My suggestion is hold off until the end of the school year when we can address every one of those issues that we need to know the answer to before we resign ourselves to put our students last.
Thank you. Elisa Silverstein, Carla Romero.
Tough act to follow, Adam. Good evening. My name is Lisa Silverstein, and I'm a home hospital teacher. We work with some of the most vulnerable students in the district, both short and long term. We help keep our students from falling through the cracks. We help break the low graduation rates that plague Rochester, and we cannot withstand another 5% cut to our unit. Home hospital teachers have been reduced over the past 2 years from 32 teachers to our current number of 20. We have not been allowed to hire anyone new, even though we've had 8 retirements. Plus 4 more home hospital teachers lost their jobs in the June budget cuts. This is a 38% reduction to our unit in just 2 years. And the catastrophic results of these cuts are already being felt. We have a waiting list for students in desperate need of our services, the sick and injured, special ed students awaiting placement, teen mothers, and even the long-term suspended students the district keeps assigning to us, even though they know we're completely full. The district seems to think home hospital teachers are expendable, but I am here to make sure you know that we provide a state-mandated service. New York State Ed Law, CR 175.21, says at the elementary school level, each pupil shall receive at least 1 hour each day. At the secondary school level, each pupil shall receive at least 2 hours each day. As to who provides this instruction, the law says a teacher holding certification at the appropriate level of instruction. A teacher holding certification. For years, the district has been trying to replace us with substitutes, rather than keeping us at the appropriate staffing threshold. Last year, we had 11 substitutes working in our program, a few from the first day of school. All students deserve certified teachers. It is short-sighted, disrespectful, and a violation of state education law to try to eliminate qualified teachers and year after year decimate our unit and replace us with subs. Our students deserve better, and so do our teachers. I beg of you, please no more cuts to our small, dedicated, and mandated teaching unit. Thank you.
Carla Romero is to be followed by Jason Valenti.
Hi, good evening, Commissioner, the board, and Superintendent Dade. My name is Carla Romero. I'm a teacher at School 19. Our school is one of the newly receivership schools. We have 392 students, with 96.1% of our students in poverty and 25% with students with disability. We currently have a co-teaching model at our school from grades kindergarten through 8th grade, where we utilize all our teachers all day long teaching in the classroom, including our reading teachers and our intervention teachers. This model allows students to be able to have more individual instruction with less disruptions, and there's more time for instruction. My concern, along with, I'm sure, at many other schools, is that a lot of, we've heard through the grapevine that the reading teachers, the intervention teachers, new teachers, and the long-term substitute teachers are going to be on the chopping block. 30% of our staff is in that situation. So it's very possible that we could lose 30% of our teachers at our school, which will completely break up the model, which will be devastating to our students. I have to say I'm completely against the mid-year layoffs. And I honestly believe that this is something that would never happen in a suburban district. So I don't understand why it's okay for our students to have to suffer this mid-year. There's got to be another solution where this can happen in June. It's not fair to our students.
Thank you. Jason Valenti. All right, Stephanie Weaver. Stephanie Weaver.
No, Jason's right there.
No, hold on. Stephanie Weaver is a parent, and so there's some confusion about you getting on the list, so I apologize for that. So
it's okay.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon. And I do know that you inherited something really crappy, and I'm sorry about that, but at the same time, I'm a mom of 2 boys, and I can tell you, one of those boys, I have to almost daily apologize to a teacher, Miss Simino, because the thing he does in the classroom, if I was in Haiti, that would never happen, but I'm in the US. But we have to understand that I can't help but agree with, I forgot the name of the lady who just spoke, that the city school is overwhelmingly black and brown. And this is happening because they're black and brown students. It would never happen in Fairport, in Pittsford. It's happening because our students are poor. I'm a working poor. I'm here, I just got a call from my kids, where are you, Mom? And that's my day. And most of the parents here are working poor. They don't have the time to be here to make a ruckus out there, to ask why our teachers, because that's all I care about. I'm not gonna lie, I only care about the teachers. When I send my kids to school, that's who I care about, because I send them for the purpose of being taught, not for administration, okay? And I used to sub for the city. Let me tell you, it is no child's play. There's a special place for teachers. And I feel like what's being done to them and what's being done to our students is only happening because it is black and brown kids. It never happened in majority white, and I'm being frank. But there's a silver lining, because you guys know the joke that white women will always ask to speak to a manager. And I do believe that since most of our teachers are overwhelmingly white women, I'm asking you to start asking to speak to the damn manager. Thank you.
Jason Valenti will be followed by Jason Valenti will be followed by Darlene Garcia Torres.
Commissioners, Superintendent Day, good evening. My name is Jason Valenti. I'm a city resident, and I began teaching in the Rochester City School District in 2001. I currently teach 5th grade at School 39, and I do not envy any one of you, what you're facing in the next few weeks and few months. I know that while trying to find a solution to our current financial crisis, you will consider the emotional and educational needs of our students. I also know that mid-year school-level cuts will hurt our ability to meet those needs. With the current and projected financial deficits we face, I understand that changes at the school level may be unavoidable. However, if you truly wish to minimize disruptions to learning, look for every potential cut within these walls first. The layers of bureaucracy here in central office have grown year after year. Every past superintendent has come in and either created or left alone too many highly paid management positions. Superintendent Dade, you have the opportunity to do something different. You can come in, break down, and streamline this expensive and very redundant system. For each 6-figure position you discharge from central office, you can save 2 or more staff members. Teachers, paraprofessionals, and others, the people who work directly with our students and whose loss we can ill afford. You have discussed consolidating schools and classrooms. If done in the summer, disruptions would be minimal. The same cannot be said when such consolidations occur in January. Recently, a significant savings did occur, and although 2 positions were consolidated during the school year, there was not a single disruption in any classroom to any student, because that consolidation occurred in central office. I implore each of you, please, look for any and all potential cuts and consolidations here at central office, far from where teaching and learning takes place, before you resort to making cuts and consolidations at the building and classroom level. Thank you.
Ms. Garcia Torres will be followed by Ms. Hoban.
My name is Darlene Garcia Torres. I'm a teacher in this district and a researcher. My work has been published in top education journals, presented at American Educational Research Association conferences, and mentioned in several media sources such as The Atlantic, Science Daily, and Inside Higher Ed, among others. It is evident the governance structure of this district is not providing sustainable, high-quality education for the community, largely due to mismanagement fueled by a disconnect between central office and those doing the direct work of educating children in schools, such as teachers. We now know through countless studies that teachers' academic abilities and qualifications are strongly related to student achievement, with more experienced teachers and teachers with higher education levels yielding significant academic improvement. When qualified teachers leave school, students face higher levels of academic risk, and in high minority and low income schools, already vulnerable student populations become even more vulnerable to academic failure. In the present situation, the dismissal of teachers in this district, particularly mid-year, is additionally damaging to the learning process. This action, among several others, including a recent proposal by a member of this board, show wanton disrespect for teachers and students. The breakdown of key processes necessary for a school district to serve its mission, to provide a high-quality education regardless of socioeconomic status, points toward the need for a new governance structure. Many teachers within RCSD have expressed interest in a governance structure that has been modeled with success in other locations, teacher-powered schools, wherein teachers lead schools. In other words, those who do the daily work of providing instruction make policy. Several of us put significant work into writing a proposal that could not be brought forward due to recent events. Since there is a call for significant changes in governance structure, I would like to suggest that rather than pour more resources into the current structure of governance, to divert those resources into teacher-powered schools so that those who have direct impact on student learning can do their work unhindered. Thanks.
Ms. Hoban will be followed by Emily Fraggle and Jamie Lillis.
To the members of the board, thank you for taking the time to hear my statement. My name is Adriana Hoban. In 2016, I made the voluntary choice to student teach in the Rochester City Schools. I did not know at the time that it was the best choice of my life. I found a way to connect with my students and see true potential in them. Upon finishing student teaching, I began to sub, and shortly after, began my career as a teacher and a coach in this district. 3 non-tenures later, and 4 schools later, I continue to teach here because of my love of the urban setting and dedication to these children's educations. Every day I'm greeted with hugs and smiles by my students shouting, "Hi, Ms. Holman." The resilience of my students inspires me every day to be a better person and to be the best teacher I can be. Student success planning in this district has been referred to as the 3 rocks for future. How can we celebrate student stories when we will not be there to see them finish the year? We do have great teachers who will be paying an ultimate price and sacrificing the success of students in this school year. If we are going to stand together as a Rochester family, why are we leaving staff and teachers behind come January? Family does not leave anybody behind. Being a teacher of 7th graders going through emotional, physical, and social challenges daily, I've invested the last 3 months, as have my colleagues, building a solid foundation of trusting relationships with these students. To be ripped from them mid-year would be emotionally torturous to them and cause a huge rise in behavioral issues for any school. My students get emotional and upset when I am out of the building for just 1 day. I can't imagine what it would do to them to take me away for the last 6 months of the year. I started this year with them, and I'm solely dedicated to finishing this investment in our students. Doing so will minimize trauma and behavioral issues and maximize success for all students, schools, and larger communities. This approach remains true to the spirit of the 3 rocks for our students. No teacher or student should pay a price mid-school year for the fiscal mistakes that have been made by the district. Thank you.
Emily Fraggle will be followed by Jamie Lillis and Carla Carey. Again, if you could repeat your name when you take to the podium, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Emily Fraggle, and I'm a reading teacher at School 19.
I'm here today to advocate for my 36 students. We're a family, and I'll do whatever in my power to fight for their education. The potential loss of teachers in this district will force the community into a deeper deficit than it already is. We've had a long, sad reputation as a district. This choice will not only harm our children's education, but their future as well. This detrimental and irresponsible decision will come bearing negative consequences for the future of our students at a time when education has never been more important to finding a good job and following their dreams. Getting rid of teachers is the opposite of what we should be doing. This proposed plan is poorly thought out and backwards. It doesn't invest in our district's future. It undercuts and stands as a disservice to our students. My school 19 is one of the listed schools in receivership. I looped with my 4th grade students last year, and we achieved a 44% passing rate in ELA and state math tests. And this year, we're on our way to making substantial growth. In our teaching model, we have a high teacher-to-student ratio, and this has helped students close their learning gap, and that is what we're trying to do. As a reading teacher in our building, I'm utilizing the classrooms all day, full-time. I'm not extra. Do you really want to interrupt our growth by removing a key component of our collaborative teaching model? I have worked tirelessly to create and extend my relationships with my students and their families over the past 2 years. It has been promised that after these layoffs, students will have a certified teacher standing in front of them. But don't be too quick to forget that no significant learning can occur without significant relationships, and you're going to be destroying these. I'm a young teacher, and I could have applied to any other school district, but I chose this one for a reason. I truly want to make a difference in their lives. I don't sleep at night thinking about my students and how they will do without me in the room, helping them succeed. I worry that this bad decision could lead to added trauma. Please don't allow me to be one more person ripped out of their lives. I hope as a district we're able to avert these layoffs and amend this hurtful plan. I may be only one teacher in a district and full of a lot of voices, but if you aren't going to listen to my voice, at least let the voices of my 36 students be heard.
Thank you. Thank you. Jamie Lillis, to be followed by Carla Carey. Jamie Lillis, to be followed by Carla Carey, and then Michelle Taylor.
I'm just going to say that's my teammate. I am a 30-year teacher in this district. Budget cuts are not new. I think I can think back to one of the first years, and I probably was sitting right over there at the same thing with the staff going over this. Everyone always comes and says they will make cuts away from the classrooms, and yet here we are again talking cuts away from the classroom mid-year. We are already scraping resources together, resources that other districts have. Cutting teaching professionals will decimate us as a district. We cannot afford to lose the young talent that we have gained. And I want to say that if we always do what we always did, we'll always get what we've always gotten. And that's what happens year after year, budget cut after budget cut. It will take years for us to recover from it if we can. We need to have creative and sensible minds, and they must prevail. As a district, we need to be thoughtful. As a school in receivership, we have made significant gains. We stood before you several years ago begging to have our program accepted. We have done with minimal amounts of money. We have shown growth, outstanding growth. We have created a teaching model that is proving to be effective, and it is unique in our district, but it needs to be spread out all over everyone. We utilize every staff member fully. Emily, as a reading teacher, is full-time in the classroom. She does not come and go and take a group of students. She works with us all day long, as well as every intervention teacher and coach in our building. Using this model, we have experienced the most significant growth of any school currently in receivership, meeting all of our targets last year. We continue to need the model. The integral features of the model cannot be replicated by shuffling other staff members in. We are midstream, and training and cooperation has been developed. We need to be given the opportunity to see this through. We need to preserve our model. I understand that we cannot escape cuts, but allow us to be creative and negotiate our cuts. Leave our staff intact. Thank you very much.
Carla Carey will be followed by Michelle Taylor and Elizabeth Rios Bakari.
Carla Carey, School 19. I realize that the budget situation is dire. However, middle of the year cuts to people who are directly servicing students at the school building level is just wrong. It will throw classrooms across our district into chaos, and our students deserve better. I feel like the receivership schools need some special consideration because this new cohort of receivership schools needs to make 2/3 more improvement in test scores than the first cohort, and the state at the same time slashed the money supporting those improvements. So we have a lot on our plates. We're working very hard to make that growth, and I believe we can do it. But if these mid-year cuts happen and our classrooms are upended, how will we be able to overcome that? The very instructional model that we have written into our receivership plan for helping us to get out of our receivership will be decimated by those cuts. There's an alternative solution. Fight for the money from the state. They owe our students $97 million as of 2018. It is in permanent state law that districts in New York be funded according to the state's equitable funding formula. Yet our state is billions of dollars behind in fully funding its own formula. And the majority of the money that the state owes to schools are owed to districts that look like ours, primarily black and brown students. Those are the students who aren't getting the money. In fact, New York State ranks 49th out of the 50 states for equity in the way that they fund their schools. Okay? This is a time for that unsurpassed collaboration, and it needs to be the union, the board, the teachers, our community partners, the parents, the students. Power concedes nothing without demand, and this is the time we need to stand up and demand the money from the state, and we can fix our fiscal mismanagement problems at the same time that we get the money that our students are owed. Thank you.
Michelle Taylor, to be followed by Elizabeth Rios Bakari, and then Kristen French.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Elizabeth Rios Bakari. I have 2 children who are educated in the Rochester City School District. My daughter graduated from Wilson and currently works in the post office. My son went to World of Inquiry, and he's currently serving our country with dreams of coming back to Rochester to become a police officer. I have worked in the Rochester City School District myself for 19 years as a paraprofessional and now as a teaching assistant. Some people may not know this and wonder where we've been. We've been working 2 jobs. The majority of paraprofessionals have to work 2 jobs just to survive. The starting pay for a paraprofessional is under $13 an hour, and we max out at 30 hours a week. Sorry.
All right.
Making cuts to paraprofessionals will leave little impact, have little impact on this budget deficit of what, $60 million? Removing us from a classroom will be devastating to teachers, to children, to schools, to our buildings, to our city. We support children everywhere, between potty training and job training. We do everything in between. I understand that perhaps the 5% across the board was your way of making things equal. But please remember, equal doesn't mean, making things fair, but fair does not always mean equal.
Fair means everyone gets what they need to be successful. Our students deserve to be successful, and they deserve to make sure that they have the best chance possible. I'm nervous.
Don't worry.
I'm nervous, but I'm just asking for you to cut as far away from the classroom as possible. Give our children a chance.
Thank you. Kristen French will be followed by Dan DiClemente and Leanne Dupree.
Hello, I'm Kristen French, and I'm a city resident, and I'm a teacher in this, working for the Rochester City School students for the past 17 years. I'm here to talk about the what-ifs with using the goals of your board. What if the board truly wanted to follow the goal of achieving 5% increase in graduation rate? Then you would not cut positions that help prepare our students not only pass standardized testing, but also prepare them for life beyond school. What if the board truly wanted to increase student proficiency in ELA and math by 7%? Then you would not cut positions that directly impact students' ability to read, write, problem solve, infer, comprehend, and numerous other skills educators instill in our learners. What if the board truly wanted to reduce the disproportionate special ed classification and the suspension of students of color, while also increasing the enrollment of students in advanced coursework? Then you would not cut the positions that directly impact our students' learning, especially with their social emotional learning. What if the board truly wanted to engage parents, families, and the community of the RCSD? Then notices for board meetings would regularly go out to families, all meetings would be videotaped and streamed, childcare would be offered, and there'd be updated board minutes posted on the webpage, which would require you to accept the minutes in a more timely manner. The last ones posted were from September 12th. What if the board wanted to create an educational experience similar to yours, Mr. Dade, at Harridan High School of Fairfax County? I quote, where the students are encouraged to develop academic proficiencies, pursue their goals and dreams, and gain real-world experience, and strengthen their community. Where rigorous, relevant, interesting lists of courses that include, but are not limited to, advanced placement, honors, career, and technical and fine arts are offered. Then the board would not cut any positions within the schools at this time. And if you wanted what was afforded to you, Mr. Dade, and perhaps many of you, you would not do this to our students as well. What if the board truly cared about our employees? Then every letter notifying the employees of their cut position would be directly hand-delivered to the employee by the board member during the school day. So you can witness the very work that they're being absent from our students' life. And you can actually see the human being behind the seniority number in the tenure area. What if the board voted no on December 19th to this proposal? Then we would continue to provide our students with consistency, and we would decrease the transitions and extreme trauma that will be caused if you decide to cut positions and displace our support staff, administrators, and educators mid-year. Thank you.
Dan DiClemente, to be followed by Leanne Dupree and Jessica Fleming. Let's see Dan here. Oh, there you are. Ma'am, That's okay. No, that's all right. What's your name?
Leanne.
Okay, why don't you go on ahead.
All right. You ready, Hello.
Hello.
I'm Leanne Dupree. I'm a special education teacher at School to 29. I teach students with autism, including my buddy here, Elijah.
Hi, Mrs. Dupree.
Hi, Elijah. How are you?
You put that in the pocket.
Yes.
My keys were in the pocket.
I've got to talk about Miss Sire, okay? Who is Miss Sire? Can we tell them?
My keys were in the pocket.
Listen to question. Who is Miss Sire? You're who?
A teacher.
Whose teacher?
Miss Sire.
Is your teacher, right? What does she help you with? Speech, right?
Mr. Right.
Okay, I got to take the mic from here, buddy. Thank you. It'll take 2 speech teachers being cut, where Elijah's going to lose some of that precious voice that he's developed just this year working with a first-year speech teacher in our district who chose to be here knowing this dysfunctional family of ours. I'm going to ask you, the board, to do one thing. Please reflect on the position that are going to be cut.
And you're going to do that by just saying the position. How many students were...
What minute? Look at this is for free.
He's asking you to look because I'm speaking. Okay, so you're gonna, I just want you to say the position, how many students that staff member serviced, and how many students are going to be negatively impacted, and how much money the district will save, okay? So it should sound something like this. Speech pathologist who serviced 20 students including students with disabilities, to save our district X amount of dollars. That's my one request. So for every teacher you cut, say the position, you say how many students were serviced, and that's including those students will be negatively impacted, and then how much money this district is gonna save. Because I'll tell you what, they're worth more than any dollar amount that you're gonna save.
Dan DiClemente, to be followed by Jessica Fleming and Michelle McCourtney.
$25,000. That's how much Raymond Harris makes as a security worker in 1 year to keep students safe at the Leadership Academy. Harris is one of 72 support staff positions cut in the proposed budget. Tamiko Matthews has made thousands of house calls and home visits, part of an attendance initiative created by this board to prevent another tragedy like Trevian Row. Cornell Sharpton is a grandmother, a clerk who works at school number 57. She stays late with a sick child whose mother can't get there on time. She wipes his runny nose, provides him with gloves and a winter hat, all for $21,000 a year. Anthony Jones is a single father, a graduate of school number 17, where he now works and makes $12 an hour to clean the classrooms and the bathrooms. Hard enough for him to have to clean up after everyone. But now he faces the prospect of losing his health care, his residence, his dignity. Next month, someone will have to explain to a single mother why Tamiko didn't call her when her son didn't show up at school. Explain to a bullied and bloodied student why Sentry Harris wasn't at his post. Explain to a first grader what happened to Mrs. Sharpton. It's true, these staff members aren't in the students' classroom. They're in their hearts, and they're in their minds. And the only question left for you is whether or not they will remain a part of their lives. Thank you for your time.
Jessica Fleming, to be followed by Michelle McCourtney and Adam McTierney Ross.
Hi, so my name is Michelle McCourtney, and I'm a school psychologist at Roberto Clemente School Number 8. At School Number 8, we have many dedicated, hardworking young teachers. I have a quote to start with from Superintendent Dade in an article. He said he was absolutely committed to the fact that, quote, your child will have a highly qualified teacher in front of them each and every day, end of quotes. As it has been made clear by the speakers before me, students don't need a teacher. Students need their teacher. Their teacher who has been building relationships with them for the last 61 school days. We're going to have kids start over with someone new? 61 days from now brings us to March 25th, the day after New York State ELA testing starts. The potential damage that the projected cuts will do to students and student achievement must be put ahead of the financial costs. I had a principal that used to say, don't bring me a problem without a potential solution, otherwise you're just complaining. I have an idea for a possible solution. We need to look more closely for wasteful spending. Every day at my building, we have 2 full-size school buses, the big ones, the full-size school buses, 2 of them. Each one has a driver and a monitor. On those 2 buses, each is 4 students. 4 students, 2 adults on a giant bus every single day, twice a day. That's a waste, right? I know that's a waste. It's a drop in the bucket to the 65 million, but if this drop exists, I'm sure that there are others. How are we talking about cutting teacher positions and potentially damaging students when there continues to be such obvious signs of wasteful spending across the district? It's clear that things can't stay the same, but there's definitely got to be a different way to make the changes. Thank you.
Adam McTierney Ross will be followed by Janiyah Noble.
Good evening. My name is Adam McIntyre Ross. I've been a teacher for 13 years in urban residential environments and in the district at East Lower School for 2. A large number of our students in the district have high scores on the Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACE scores, an indicator of high levels of traumas like abandonment, abuse, violence, hunger, and homelessness that studies have shown negatively affect student performance. At East and many of the other schools in the district, a major focus is using trauma-informed instruction to leverage the most effective methods for helping children, with a critical one being building relationships with students in order to create stability and give them a reliable adult that they can go to during the school day. It takes time, love, and the effects can last for years and have an undeniably positive effect and a positive outcome on attendance, behavior management, and student achievement. Proposing to dispose of at least 200 educators and paras, now or later, who have been trying to build those relationships and build those connections would be extremely damaging to the scholars, the schools, and deliver trauma in the process, devastating kids who may need us the most by taking caring adults out of their lives. Additionally, this is very directly punishing schools, their families, and our communities for mistakes made by years of mismanagement, even when explicitly warned multiple times by multiple professionals over those years. It's treating the hardworking educators and their students like deficits and disposable tools being used to fix a problem they had no part in creating. These mid-year cuts are irresponsible. They're unethical and they're callous and damaging to our communities and our profession. It shows a complete disregard for the effect on people and makes them numbers. To insinuate that I or my other teaching colleagues do not care about their students or that are playing games as you did in your email, Miss Elliott, to me, is completely unwarranted and deeply insulting. I'm going to end with a quote by a character named Granny Weatherwax from one of my favorite authors, Terry Pratchett, in his book Carpe Diem. Sin is when you treat people like things. Thank you.
Janiyah Noble, followed by Sarah Oliveri and Brooke Cherubino. Ms. Oliveri, and then Ms. Cherubino and Ms. Noble. You're up.
Janiyah Noble, educator, community leader, community activist. Greetings. I come here today with a compelled heart, for I am extremely concerned of our children's future. Rochester has one of the highest poverty rate in our nation. Our children are faced with many adversities every day, such as violence, trauma, mental, physical abuse, and verbal. But there is light, and that light for some children is school. School is a safe zone, a home away from home. These babies come to us broken, hurt, and our job as educators and nurturers is to comfort them, mold them into what we know they can become. And you take away the educators, you cut us, you're cutting a lifeline. a lifeline for many that our children have. As educators, we wear many different hats. Some days I'm mama, some days I'm auntie, some days I'm grandma, some days I'm cousins. Whatever they need me to be, I will be, such as other staff members. You cut after school programs, our kids, they only gonna turn to the streets. Where would they go? Some of those programs provide food. Those are the only hot meals that they eat. Some children only eat at school. Cutting those programs, they will have no meals. Nothing at all. They're coming to us, crying out to us. They need us. And if you cut, you're cutting lifelines to those children that they only have. So I ask that you please reconsider. Cut as far away from the classroom as you can, for we are the only people that they have. Thank you.
Ms. Oliveri, Brooke Cherubino.
Hi, it says I'm staff, but when I called, I asked to be listed as a parent. Can you change that so it says parent? Great, thank you. Yes, my name is Sarah. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah Oliveri, and I'm a teacher and a proud parent of 2 beautiful children in the Rochester City School District. I'm not here to convince you to change decisions you may have already made. I want you to tell me what you are going to put in place so this never happens again. I am very aware that I carry a level of privilege, and soon many of my neighbors will be fleeing from my city neighborhood for the surrounding suburbs. I watch this happen every year. I hear folks speak of the Rochester City School District as a place that's dangerous or can't educate our children. I hear strangers and neighbors make racist remarks, place blame on parents and broken systems. My heart breaks with every for sale sign. But my husband and I are from the belief system that what is best for all children is what is best for our children. But we can no longer make excuses for adults who've made poor decisions. On Tuesday night, I tried to go to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I found my husband, and with massive tears running down my face, I told him that I couldn't breathe. I felt like someone was standing on my chest. He told me I'm just one person, but this mess has seeped into my soul and made a deep, deep wound. And I know it's true for all of you in the board, even for some of you in the board who can't even look up when we're speaking to you. And I told them, when someone said that, I said, I don't care. We are coming with love and compassion. We need to send each other love and compassion. I'd like to thank the board because in early June you said you'd fully fund restorative practices and other SEL practices that support our children, because Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. So as we move forward, our only guiding question should be, how are we treating our children? Thank you.
Brooke Cherubino by Michaela Eckwell, Ms. Eckwell, and Eric Bouchard. Let me try that again. Brooke Cherubino. I'm probably mispronouncing this person's name. Michaela Eckwell. Miss Eckwell? Yes. Help me with your first name.
Michaela.
Michaela, thank you.
Esteemed members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michaela Eckwell. I'm a special education teacher at School 43. I'm a part of a generation of teachers that when we all chose to go into teaching, we had countless veterans tell us, don't do it, run far away, teaching is not what it used to be, don't do it, you're going to burn out in 10 years. And we continued anyways, because in my generation of younger teachers, we had a strong desire, hunger, want to
change the world. And so we continued anyways through 5.5 years of school, 4 certifications, countless exams that we spent thousands of our hard-earned college dollars on to be here and to voluntarily choose to be a part of this district where I wanted to be since I started my college career as an undergraduate at Brockport. We chose to be here because we knew in our CSD is where the difference so desperately needed to be made with young, passionate professionals like myself. So we chose to be here with one of the most poverty-stricken, trauma-washed districts in the entire United States on purpose. And now we are faced with the reward of only 4 years into my career, when I'm not even tenured yet, losing the position that I have worked so hard for the last 5 years of my life, along with the countless professionals here that have dedicated their lives to these children that so desperately need us. And so I'm up here as a young, passionate professional saying, you need young, hungry folks like us to be a part of this district, to evoke the change, and that is why so many of us are here tonight, to be a part of the change that so desperately needs to happen in this district. And so I ask, please reconsider what is happening here with these budget deficits. We did not cause them, we didn't ask for them, and we chose to be here. And we still choose to be here day in, day out, time and time again for our kids.
Eric Bouchard. Eric Bouchard. How about Teresa Dunleavy? Teresa Dunleavy.
Hi there.
Hello.
I'm Mrs. Dunleavy. I'm an art teacher at School 29. I'm a first-year teacher. I had something written and planned I was going to read to everyone, but I changed my mind when this happened in my class just yesterday. 8th period, 6th graders, you know how loud they can be. They're all getting their supplies ready, and one of them says, Miss, what was that announcement this morning that Mr. A said? He said something about coming to your room and talking to you about a meeting. Because I knew I was coming here and I was trying to get some teachers from my school to come with me. And I said, oh, yeah, it's those budget cuts that I'm really nervous about. There's a lot of teachers here at our school that are new and they're probably very nervous too. So I wanted them to know that, you know, I'll come and I'll speak if they want me to. And they go, budget, you know, they're kind of asking, they don't really pay attention to the news or anything. So they're like, what does that mean? Are you still going to be our teacher? And I'm like, well, I really hope so. I don't want to say yes, I don't want to say no. So I'm like, really hope so, guys. Miss, are you going to be here after Christmas? And I'm like, guys, I don't know. Miss, you just got here. And at this point, my room is, you can hear a pin drop, which is very rare. Miss, you just got here. I go, I know, guys, that's the problem. I'm new. This is really bad for new teachers. And then she says, Miss, we just started to like you. And I go, wow, really? Are you kidding me? And she looks at me dead in my eyes and she goes, you know what I mean, right? Now, does anyone out here know what she means? She just started to trust me. She just started to trust me, and the rest of them were right there with her, nodding their heads, silent, something I've never seen before, and I was very moved by that, and that's when I said, you know what, I'm not going to read this, I'm just going to tell everybody that me coming back after Christmas means a lot to them. So let me go in June, but don't let me go now. Please. Thank you.
Dear Superintendent, board members, and all who are present, I first want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. On behalf of all teachers, I would like to speak about the budget cuts and how it affects our students. Let me read some of their letters for you to hear. I will let them introduce me. This is their response when they heard I might be cut. Mr. Bushart, an IAT music teacher, is a nice man. He helped us all with our work, and when we don't understand work, he breaks it down for us. We are able to talk to him about anything, and he won't tell nobody. Mr. Bushart shouldn't have to go through this because he is one of the only teachers that really challenges his students and help us out at the same time. Mr. Bushart is a genuine individual that comprehends with everyone that he works with. I have missed so many days of school, but when I have his classes, I come. If Mr. Bushart gets fired, I will quit school. We shouldn't have to lose a perfect teacher for someone that isn't going to treat us the same way as he. He encourages us as students to come to school, complete our work. If you guys let us help keep Mr. Bushart, we will continue to do what we have to do to graduate on time. Mr. Bushart only wants us to be prepared for our future, and he not only cares about graduation rates, he cares about our lives, and he wants us to understand what we are doing. He isn't just a music teacher, he is a strong, encouraging person. Second letter, Mr. Bushart needs to stay in Franklin High School because he is a loving, caring, and he tries his best with the students even though people and kids be rude to him. He still remains to do his job. Mr. Bushart is like another counselor to those kids here at Franklin. Every time a kid has a problem with work, depression, or even having a hard time at home, meaning suicide, he helps them get through the rough times. Mr. Bushart is an impeccable teacher. He makes your day when having a bad day. He is the reason why most of our kids come to IAT, come to school. He makes it fun for us to learn, and even though be down himself, he still remains to put a smile on his face and make sure that kids are not in the halls and more. Sure, that do what they're supposed to do in school, but Mr. Bushart is like another parent to kids here, and I know if we lose him, kids will go back to their old ways. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our speakers list. We're going to adjourn for about 5 minutes, give everybody a break, give folks a chance to get home to their children and their families, and be prepared for tomorrow. So God bless, and thank you for coming out tonight. All right, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, well, we got 4, we got a quorum. Oh, we got 5. Do I hear 6? Do I hear 6? Do I hear 6? All right, here we go. All right, first of all, I don't know that they're in here. I want to thank, oh, Terry's not here. Well, he doesn't, you're going to do that?
Yeah, he's listening.
He doesn't have.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be here. I want to thank district staff, particularly James Shepard and Mike Smith. They did an exceptional job. Terry and I spoke this morning about what we would need to make sure this meeting was a meeting where Mike, oh, I'm talking about both of you guys right now. I was just, on behalf of the board, thanking you for the work that you did today. I know there was a lot of planning and effort, and it paid off. I thought a number of people even said to me outside the hallway, the meeting went well. Everybody had a chance to be heard. And I meant to thank the people that were here, but you guys and your team were a big part of that. So on behalf of the board, thank you very much.
Nothing to do with us. We got great people.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm sure they're listening, and if they're not here to listen, please share our thanks with them. Okay, next item on the agenda is there are no advisory committee reports, advisory council reports. There are no board reports. Next item on the agenda is Dr. Nelms. Yes. Oh, do you want to do it now?
May I?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have 2 points of personal privilege, if I may. And the first one, I'm sorry that Superintendent Dade hadn't come back yet. I was reviewing some of the minutes from past, generations past board meeting, and I've reached 1981, and what was most significant about 1981 was it was Superintendent Laval Wilson's first year as a superintendent. In January of that year, he had to preside over the closing of a school, School 49, and they had a budget crisis. And it wasn't the first budget crisis I've read about since I started reading 1978, 1979. But in 1981, I'll read just one paragraph from a board member, Mr. Delvecchio's comments to support his no vote on the budget. I quote, "City Council and state legislature have the legal and moral responsibility to adequately fund education in Rochester, as they have not yet lived up to the responsibility. The people of Rochester must demand extra funds for education. Without an additional $3 million for education, the public relations slogan of 'I would rather be in Rochester' will be meaningless." And that's just one example of how history, when it comes to Rochester, repeats itself. And as one of our speakers said, this only happens because we're a district of Black and brown people. It wouldn't happen in affluent suburbs. We wouldn't be so dependent on the state or on our city for funding. So that was my first point. I wanted to share a little bit of the history of Rochester. This was May of 1981. My second point of personal privilege, I do believe that when bad information is put out into the community, that it needs to be addressed publicly. When information is put out publicly in a meeting, in a newspaper or radio, that it needs to be, the record needs to be corrected equally in an equally public way. And I want to share with you my mea culpa. I wrote an article an essay for City Newspaper back in September, responding to a throwaway question that Tim Macaluso had written in his article about the budget crisis. And he said, "And what about the $50 million that's being borrowed for the revenue anticipation note?" And I wrote an essay saying, well, I can explain that. And I proceeded to outline how the city had been warning us for months that they would not pay out the $119 million on the same timetable that they had been in previous years, because they wanted to do something else with the money. So that was the gist of the essay. Mr. Wagner from the city then wrote an essay basically saying that was all wrong. We paid out the same pattern as we have in the past years. And it wasn't until after I read his essay that I realized that, in fact, he was right, I was wrong. And I told him so in person when he came to our meeting where Superintendent Dade outlined his proposal to close the budget gap. But the reason that I had it wrong was not because it had never been contemplated, but because we had been told, it had been months and months and months, the city had been proposing that they would change the timetable. And then I only heard one time in a passing conversation in the hallway that they decided to not to make that change. And the conversation was fairly insignificant. And I simply forgot that conversation. And so I wanted to correct the record publicly and apologize to anyone who misunderstood that, or I mean, who took that letter seriously. I did take it seriously, and I should not. I didn't have anyone to turn to make sure I had my facts right, because we had already by then lost our budget director and our CFO. Another fact, though, that needs to be corrected on the record was more recently a radio conversation on Evan Dawson. A statement was made that said that the Board of Education approved a change to the City Council funding stream some 14 years ago. And it's important that the records show that the board has never had any input into how much City Council chooses to give the board. We certainly did not approve it. We certainly did not want to see that happen. And there was nothing magic 14 years ago. The funding, actually from 15 years ago to 14 years ago, remained exactly the same. So I want to speak this into the record that the facts are different than what had been communicated on the public airways. So thank you for your indulgence. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Dr. Nelms.
All right, good evening, everyone. I know it's been a tough one, so I will try to make this brief, but I think it's important that we take some time to celebrate some positive things happening in our schools and the many contributions of our students and our staff. So I'm going to go through a few slides here with an update. The first is I want to thank WDKX and their host, Jazzy T, for doing the Kickoff Hustle for Health Challenge. This is a community-wide event focused on our parents, families, and grandparents to come out and do line dancing. Not country line dancing, but our type of line dancing. For the next 6 weeks, it'll start. It'll be
I like country.
Well, you can come do it. Come on now. I want to see you do your thing.
No, I'm black and all, but I like country.
See, how am I going to Let it go. All right. So anyways, 6 weeks of line dancing from January 4th, and it's 6 weeks straight. It's free to parents and their grandparents and those folks in our community. So the board can come on out and do line dancing, whatever version you choose to do on that day. I also want to thank our TLI teachers, the Delahanties, for taking our TLI students. TLI is the Teaching and Learning Institute. These are students who are being prepared to be teachers if they choose that career into college, to the Rock to Change Summit. It is a summit on race and equity, which where we hosted nearly 400 students from all over Monroe County. This past summit focused on microaggressions. And I'm proud to say that our TLI students will be co-planning the next summit, which will happen this spring with the Hilton Central School District. And I'll let the board know those exact dates in the future, so you can come see our students actually lead 400 other peers around the critical issues of race and equity within our community. I also want to thank Ruth Turner and her team for being part of and planning the HBCU Fair. It was an incredible event. I'm proud of the students listed there who were provided and accepted scholarships to the various universities listed. It was an incredible event. The event also featured a number of fraternities and sororities represented, our D9, and I represented my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and it was an incredible event. And to watch the students, who are mostly juniors and seniors, engage in college-going dialogue, and also come with their resumes prepared to apply to colleges, and to see many of them earning scholarships. It was an incredible event, and I thank Ruth and her team for being such an incredible part of that and for planning an incredible day. I also want to thank the following students for being moderators and hosts for Dr. Evan Kendi. This is the author of the book that I gave the board last month. He was in Rochester and to talk about his book and his how to be an anti-racist, and our students did an incredible job representing the RCSD. There were also students from other schools who served as docents and helped facilitate the crowd as well. So there were probably 40 RCSD students in attendance from all various schools, but I'm very proud of these students for being on stage and moderating discussion, asking very critical questions of the panelists, including Van, your son was up there. Brandon White was there as one of the guest speakers and did an incredible job. We are getting close to the opening of our dental and barbering school at East. This is a picture of the dental, there'll be 2 permanent dental chairs at East to support the community dental health and oral health. We are also going to work with the surrounding elementary schools, so it's not just for East, it's a community benefit, and it was the funding from the community schools grant helped build this. We're also working with a few of the local barbering schools, not just to cut hair, but to teach students about the art of barbering so they can take that skill with them into life. I will tell you, as a college student, I wish I went to a school located in a rural setting, and I would have made a lot of money if I knew how to cut hair. So teaching the kids how to cut hair and the art of barbering is really important, and as a son of a beautician, I respect the art. This is one of our projects that we've worked an entire year on. I want to bring up Dr. Jason Willis to help discuss what's happening at East on January 9th that the board will be invited to, as well as the mayor and others, to discuss the unveiling of our project, Their Eyes Are Watching God. Dr. Willis?
So really a complete honor for me, Department of African American Studies, as an extension of the Rochester City School District, and equally as an extension of Dr. Nelms here today relative to this culture responsive project at East. About 9, maybe 10 months ago, Dr. Nelms came to me talking about a project that he wanted to do, and so we sat down and just kind of brainstormed. He kind of charged me with the task of leading, and so I knew that if we were doing anything relative to community and environmental restoration around culture responsive practices here in Rochester, that we should at least consider onboarding Sean Dunwoody in the project. And so recognizing the incredible work that he's done around the city, in conjunction with this project, Sean has been an amazing light. I have today for you a complete list of names of the individuals that will be honored. This project is completely grassroots. It was put out through student surveys and the PTA, parent associations, to have and to be able to list individuals that they look to as revolutionary leaders in their communities and their families. The one thing that about it is, the researcher in me, it's important to code the information for frequency, and so that's really how the names were selected. In full disclosure, there is some anonymity behind the local people that you may see, faces that are going to be represented. So until they get their formal documentation inviting them to the project, if you could keep that kind of close to chest, that would be really, really helpful and assistive in the process. Ultimately, we're scheduled for January 9th, and we are taking this time to orally give you the invite, but we will also provide you a formal invite. The extension of Zora Neale Hurston, Their Eyes Were Watching God, if anybody's familiar with the story, obviously this aligns with our ELA curriculum. The story really comes from a lady reaching self-actualization through trials and tribulations. We thought that that fit neatly with the experience not only of Rochester proper, but our school district as a microcosm of our larger community. And so for that, we wanted to leave something that would have some type of legacy effect, that would be able to have some sustainability regardless of what's going on within our district, and we believe that this does. There's many a layer of curriculum underneath it. I can talk to you about that and or send a short kind of brief, a staccato note about what those layers are. Just to make you aware, one of the young, I'm assuming it was instructors of record that spoke about Nelson Mandela. We have a few of the pictures. If you can imagine the eyes that will actually be used. So we're excited to bring up to speed our community on individuals like Frida Kahlo, recognizing the power of Roberto Clemente, Jose Marti, Juan Pablo Duarte, Angela Davis, Marcus Garvey, people that have been underrepresented in terms of how it is that we talk about them. And ultimately, we're really excited to have not only the East students, but also many of our colleges and universities, kind of minority male and female associations, step up to be a part of this presentation on the 9th. So they will definitely be talking to you about who these individuals are, why they're important, and we're really excited about it.
Yep, so these would be large placards with just the eyes from the nose to the...
10 feet by 4 feet.
Yep. And we will, and then the students are doing a book study throughout the school through our use of family group, and so that they understand that. And outside the display, inside the building, looking out to the display that's in our courtyard, will be the historical facts about the individuals, so that it will function like a virtual museum regarding these individuals. And the intent would be to add different folks throughout the years that we deem as important to our community. And so the concept of having the ancestors looking over us is how we're moving forward with this project. Thank you, Dr. Willis, and thank you, Sean Dunwoody, in your absence. And then the last point I want to make is we had an amazing football season this year, and one of our student athletes, Freddie Brock, was named Section 5 Class A Offensive Player of the Year. He's also a finalist for the Rochester, for the AGR, which is the All Rochester Team Player of the Year. He's a finalist for that. And so for those who did not come out in the cold, I want to thank Commissioner White and Shepard for braving, I think it was about 10 degrees out there that night. We went through about 20 hand warmers trying to stay warm. Here's a highlight reel, a film of Freddie playing various games throughout the year. He was a verbal commit to the University of Massachusetts. He just decommitted and was offered scholarships to just about every D1 school in the Northeast. And so he has some choices to make professionally and academically, but I wanted the board who did not see him play in person to see some of Freddie Brock's magic. He's one with the ball. share the entire video with the board. But I want to tell you that Freddie is a three-sport athlete. He plays baseball, he plays football and basketball, and he has played lacrosse in the past. He's just an incredible student. I think my son made every single game this year, and the last game of the year when it was 10 degrees out, Freddie came off the field with his jacket, put it around my son, and my son thought that was the coolest thing ever, you know? So he is just an incredible kid, and he's gonna do some great things, and we wish him and the rest of the athletes best of luck in the winter sports season. That's I also want to take, I saw Terry came back, so I want to acknowledge Terry for a second. If I could have my point of privilege, I don't have a cool book like you, but I'll do it as best I can. Terry has, and his team, I want to thank he and Harry Kennedy and Ann Brady. This has been a very tough week for a lot of individuals, and I think people often think that superintendents are, you know, superheroes, and the way in which you've handled these conversations this week with me personally, and having your team communicate openly about the cuts and the process and the planning and the regret and all the decisions you had to make. I know that you shoulder that in private, so I want to publicly thank you for doing what's necessary, which is difficult, but doing it with grace and dignity and thoughtfulness. And there's no perfect solution to this problem, but I think you've been extremely thoughtful in your planning and your execution. So whatever comes next, I want the community to know that this is not something that has not weighed on you heavily, and I've seen it first and up close and personal. And I appreciate your leadership, and you're teaching many of us how to lead in crisis. So I appreciate you, Terry, and I thank you for your team as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Nelms? Yep, Commissioner LeBron.
So thank you for that presentation and that highlight. I do have a question. One, I actually want to acknowledge you, Sean, for acknowledging Terry during this process, because I do think that people may not be aware how difficult this is. And as a board member, I feel bad that we hired someone under a different pretense of the fiscal stability of the district. And I think if the roles were reversed, I'd probably be like, I'm out of here because this is not what I signed up for. And I want to come in and do great things, and I'm being put in this really bad situation. But Sean, I just want to ask you though, I have not seen the plan for the cuts for East. I know that I requested 5 and you said 1, or that it came back via presentation that it was going to be 1. And unfortunately, I was kind of stuck out of town during that conversation for that presentation. But do you have an idea of when this board will see what cuts will be made at East, or what the plan is? Because I would like to have ample time to review it. And I also need to understand if it's going to happen at the same time that we're voting district-wide cuts. Like, I don't know what the timeline is. So if you can speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely, yep. So that was shared at the last board meeting. The cuts for this year is actually a total of $3.2 million, which is about 13% of our budget or so. So
just ask about that though.
I wasn't done.
Okay.
All right. So also through the bumping that's happening in the district, there are positions that I'm working with ACI on that will be reflected in the East staffing as well. I don't think it's appropriate for me to talk about individual folks now because they'll be made aware tomorrow. But ACI is aware of those numbers. We work with them throughout this. I think yesterday's meeting was at 7:30 in the morning. We started meeting around budgets. So East will also have cuts there also, and so and I will share that with the board if necessary. But I think it'll be included in all the ACI cuts. Yeah.
So in the presentation, it said East already gave back 2.2 and that it was going to be cutting an additional $1 million, but the 2.2 came before this deficit was known in public. So I just want to clarify, because my understanding is that it's going to be $1 million in addition to the 2.2 that was returned prior to the deficit conversation.
So the 3.2 includes the budget beginning July 1st, and so the total
before the deficit though, because we're making cuts.
Well, the deficit happened last year, so I think the deficit was there July 1. So I would say the total budget, we went through this last board meeting, the total funding being returned to RCSD for this fiscal year is $3.2 million.
But it wasn't as a result.
In addition to positions that we're cutting also.
Right, Sean, but that's not, the 2.2 million is not as a result of the same thing that we're having to experience with mid-year cuts because of the deficit. I know that the deficit was there July 1, but that was not public, you know, it was public for me. I was speaking on lots of deficits throughout this district. However, it was not known by the external auditors and to this extent. So your plan is going to be included in Terry's plan? Is that what you're saying for the additional million and the cuts there?
Yep, the $1 million was included in Terry's plan to the board last month. That number was included to the board then. And once the bumping began this week, I had conversations with ACI and Terry about additional cuts also.
Okay, well, so you may not be aware, but Terry sent us a plan that kind of cannot be public because it pertains to particular individuals.
I'm aware of that
plan? Because I don't recall seeing East.
So in Terry's plan, he did not note East until I was made aware of the bumping. So when Terry and I spoke prior to that plan being presented to the board, my question to he and the staff was, what is the impact of the bumping on East? At that point, we make a thoughtful decision, a program decision, around which positions can be absorbed and which would result in additional layoffs.
So will we get that plan and an updated plan from Terry or from you?
When ACI gets done with the reconciliation of all the positions, those will be included. And ACI has been working on that around the clock.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the Superintendent Nelms? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nelms. We're all set. Next, we move on to the presentation of resolutions. I need, unless there's someone who wants to have an executive session regarding Resolution 489, which is a granting of tenure, we can move that particular resolution. Does anybody need to discuss that in executive session? Okay, so can I get a motion to discuss resolution?
Second.
Commissioner Hallmark has made the motion. Commissioner LeBron has seconded it. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 489? There being no questions or comments, all those in favor of Resolution 489 say aye. Aye. Any opposition? All right. Next, I need a motion to discuss additional pay resolutions at East EPO.
Move it.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hallmark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Powell. Are there any questions or comments regarding Resolution 502?
Yeah, I just have a question. If this is general funds and if it was budgeted for prior to today?
Yes.
Prior to the resolution coming forward?
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? All right, well, let's move to a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 502 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
No for me.
Record that, Madam Clerk. Seems as though the ayes still have it. I next need a motion to discuss Resolution 503. These are other resolutions. As I heard Commissioner Hallmark move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 503? There being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of Resolution 503 say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Ayes have it. Now, you all received a packet from Kalia Wade regarding Resolution 504. It's a long-term suspensions appeals. Does anyone feel need to discuss that in executive session? I'm not seeing that anybody feels a need to discuss that in executive session. For those of you listening, this relates to a student appeal. The law doesn't allow us to discuss such matters publicly, so we would have to go into executive session if board members had questions, but since there's no questions, all those in favor of, well, let me move that first. Can I get a motion to move Resolution 504?
So moved.
And moved by Commissioner Hallmark,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner LeBron. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 504? There being no questions or comments, all those in favor of Resolution 504 say aye.
Aye.
The only other thing we have on the agenda, there's no unfinished business. There is some new business, and it's kind of old business. Commissioner Hallmark is not resigning until December 20th. Yep. But I think this is going to be the last meeting that she will physically be here. You're going to be participating by Skype or...
Right.
But I thought it was appropriate that we set aside today, and my colleagues agreed to spend just a brief moment reflecting on your career. Now, mine are just my own sort of notes. I can't speak for the whole board. But you've been on the board for 4 years, about just short of 4 years, one full term. And during those 4 years, again, I'm speaking for myself, you and I have had many disagreements. And I suppose if we were to examine our thoughts at this particular time, there are still many areas, or some areas that we disagree, like governance. We kind of sort of a little got into it the last meeting. But as I said before, Dr. Hallmark, we don't use that too much. I felt that I wasted, none of those arguments were wasted, I should say, because I think we learned a lot about each other's positions. But I do think that, in reflecting upon our time, that maybe I and others spend too much time mulling over our disagreements. And as I said to you before, I have some regrets about that, because I think that there are more things that I could have learned from you and you could have learned from me. And I say that to maybe serve as an example for which I can take some responsibility, but maybe other people reflect on it. Let's not do that, because there's too much happening and too much that doesn't relate to us. I watched this young man lie in his coffin, and I thought, this work is very important, but our points of view aren't that important. When you look at what can happen when we fail or when things don't go right, we spend too much time thinking about our own differences when things that are more significant, more important, like people's lives are at stake. And so I wanted to say to you, I think by way of example, we can, you and I, serve as an example of how two committed, caring public servants can waste time disagreeing. And I think, though, I'm happy to say, I think we sort of figured it out towards the end, and I'm very happy about that. So it's just an important experience. We're going to give you a plaque, but I just wanted to share that with you, Liz. I thought that we had a lot to offer, and I think we finally got it right, and I wish it was sooner, though. That's all I'm saying. So on behalf of the entire Board of Education, and certainly other people can comment if they want, and I would encourage that, but we wanted to make sure that you, along with all those good memories, and there are some good memories that were bad moments, we want you to carry those memories along with this plaque to wherever you go. And the plaque says, in grateful appreciation, the Rochester Board of Education hereby recognizes Elizabeth Hallmark for her leadership, let me stop for a second. I want to say this. In terms of leadership, a lot of us do these jobs in this district and we don't leave our mark. I've said this to you before, I want to repeat this, and for every witness to hear this. Liz was like the one person who consistently was saying, you got to change your meeting structure, you got to change your committee structure, and most of us, myself included, we weren't listening. But no, this is working the way we, right? But Liz, you know this, you have a legacy. We finally listened as a community, as a board, and we now have a different structure of meeting. And so when you leave Rochester, know that, among other things, I'm sure, that you've changed the board. And I think most people would agree, the structure and how we meet, it's more efficient. Shoot, we're gonna get out of here by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight. The conversations, you often said, hey, listen, let's meet differently, let's set up the tables differently. So there's a legacy. And not many people are able to do this job in public service and say, I made a difference. So, for your leadership, stewardship, and valuable contributions to the Rochester City School District, for having served as a board member for the years of 2015 to December 2019, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to join in or just?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say to Commissioner Hallmark, it's been a pleasure working with you. We've had, a number of coffee dates and tea dates at my special place at McDonald's. We did a lot sometimes at spot. I bring them to my hood on Upper Falls Boulevard. And so I want to, we know that we've had some tough times personally, and just want to wish you well in your new endeavor. You're going to my state where my family is, and so sometimes I'm down in the Orlando area, and I know you're going south, but I wish you well, and maybe we can connect. So, and God bless you, and God bless the work that you're going to be doing, and God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, in my 20 years on the board, I've had to say goodbye to a lot of colleagues. And most of the time I don't, because most of the time I'm still in denial. And I wish I could continue to be in denial about your departure. The fact that you didn't seek re-election, certainly I knew that this day would come. Doesn't make it any easier. So thank you for being a part of our lives for the last 4 years.
Thank you.
Any parting words, Liz?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to comment on the structure thing. I think that the very first thing that I accomplished, and I could only say that I was accomplishing on the board, was that I got us to change, I moved the furniture. Move the furniture. We used to meet in committee structure, like a line of commissioners here and a line of visitors here, and I said, no, we need to be in a circle, so move the furniture anyway. I'm glad it was more than that. Anyway, so yeah, I want to start by saying that it's been one of the biggest honors and one of the biggest challenges of my life, serving on the board. And the honor has been, in a structural sense, the opportunity to study and problem solve issues like policy and fiscal, and just the workings of the district. And also in a people sense. It's been humbling for me to develop so many relationships, meaningful relationships and friendships and professional partnerships with parents, teachers, administrators, colleagues, and countless other folks working in the district who are all devoted to improving the lives of children. The challenges of working on the board came first in the form of all the superintendent changes. 3 of the 4 years here, let's see, immediately after I was elected, Bolhan Vargas left, and we had Linda Simmons for 6 months, and then we had Barbara Dean Williams for 2.5 years, then we had Dan Longard for another 6 months, and now we have Terry. And I'm proud to say that I developed a good relationship, working relationship with each one of our superintendents and interims during their time. I appreciated and continue to appreciate the hard work of superintendents, and I'm very glad that that's not my job. And I did the very best work I could, working behind the scenes to support and improve the relationship between the board and the superintendents in my capacity as the governance chair. I believe a strong team of 8 with the board and the superintendent is key to making positive changes in our district. The public has heard or read my worry that we will continue to struggle if we don't do the difficult relational work of building ourselves as an integrated team of 8. I do believe that everyone on this board, including our new commissioners-elect, have the capacity to pull together. It just means shared commitment, and I urge the public to remind us of this in the days ahead. The departure from the board marks a new chapter in my life, as I'll be moving to West Palm Beach. No, I'm not finished packing yet. Yes, I'll get it done by Monday. I'm leaving on Monday. Yeah, I'll get it done one way or the other. I'm looking forward to a new job as a director of program evaluation and research at an arts integration, at an arts organization in West Palm Beach. And I'm very excited about the job. I'll miss my amazing community, everyone across the district and the city, everyone here in this room. Yes, even those I've clashed with, because I know I learned precious things from those who give me the most run for my money. I'll definitely be back to visit when I can,
and I will always hold this community close to my heart.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so Liz, we're going to give you the honor of making the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Vice President? All those in favor say aye. 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 Good night, everybody. I had to play this song again. This is from...